Good afternoon or good evening again, football fans. Big Al back on this Wednesday, October 8th, 2025. And this is the Week 7 college football television schedule and the announcers for every game this weekend. Alright, we looked at the Week 7 college football rankings. That video is now up if you want to go ahead and check that one out. Like, comment, and subscribe to my channel, ring the bell, and get notified every time I go live. And let's jump right into the Week 7 college football television schedule and the announcers for every game. Starting off with two games tonight. The first game starts in 45 minutes at 7:30 p.m. Eastern, 4:30 p.m. Pacific on ESPN2. Missouri State at Middle Tennessee State with Clay Matvick and Chase Daniel. And then on CBS Sports Network at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific is Liberty at Texas El Paso with Alex Del Barrio and Adam Brenneman. Then you'll have a quartet of games on Thursday beginning at 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific on ESPNU with Louisiana Tech at Kennesaw State. George Sedano and Rodney McLeod. On ESPN at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific is East Carolina at Tulane with Matt Berry and Tom Luginbill. On ESPN2 at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific is Southern Miss at Georgia Southern with Jay Alter and Rocky Boyman. And on CBS Sports Network at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific is Jacksonville State at Sam Houston with Jack Gordon and Taylor Mahargoy. And then you'll have another 4 games on Friday, starting off at 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific on ESPNU with Cornell at Harvard with Eric Freedy and Jack Ford. At 7:30 p.m. Eastern, 4:30 p.m. Pacific on ESPN2, you have number 24 USF at North Texas with Anish Shroff and Andre Ware. On FS1 at 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific is Rutgers at Washington, Noah Reed and Robert Smith. And at the same time, 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific on CBS Sports Network, Fresno State at Colorado State, Chris Lewis and Randy Cross. Now to Saturday. Starting with the early afternoon portion of the schedule, you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 games starting at 12 noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific. And then you have another game starting 45 minutes after that. You have a game at 1 o'clock and you have another at 2:30. So let's jump into this early afternoon schedule. ABC has number 8 Alabama at number 14 Missouri with Joe Tessitore and Jesse Palmer. On Fox's Big Noon Saturday, it's number 1 Ohio State at number 17 Illinois with Gus Johnson and Joel Klatt. On ESPN, it's Pittsburgh at number 25 Florida State with Dave Pasch and Dusty Dvorak. On ESPN2, it's Louisiana at James Madison, Lowell Galindo and Aaron Murray. On FS1, it's UCF at Cincinnati with Dan Hellie and Petros Papadakis. On ESPNU is Toledo at Bowling Green with Matt Schumacher and Dustin Fox. On the CW, it's Stanford at SMU with Tom Brenneman and Will Blackman. On BTN, it's UCLA at Michigan State with Mark Fellowell and Yogi Roth. On CBS Sports Network, it's Charlotte at Army, Dave Ryan and Adam Brenneman. On TNT, it's Houston at Oklahoma State with J.B. Long and Mike Golick Jr., and streaming exclusively on ESPN Plus is Miami of Ohio at Akron with Michael Reggie and Ryan Kavanaugh. Then at 12:45 p.m. Eastern, 9:45 a.m. Pacific on the SEC Network, is Washington State at number 4 Ole Miss, with Taylor Zarzour and Matt Stinchcomb. The next 2 games are streaming exclusively on ESPN+. The first game at 1 p.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific is Northern Illinois at Eastern Michigan with Doug Sherman and Barrett Brooks. And then the other game is at 2:30 p.m. Eastern, 11:30 a.m. Pacific, Massachusetts at Kent State with Anthony Lima and Doc Holliday. All right, moving on to the late afternoon portion of the schedule. You have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 games at 3:30 p.m. Eastern, 12:30 p.m. Pacific. Then you'll have one at 4 p.m., another at 4:15, and one more at 6. All right, kicking off the late afternoon portion of the schedule, ABC has the Red River Rivalry. Number 6 Oklahoma and Texas doing battle at the Cotton Bowl in Dallas with Chris Fowler and Kirk Herbstreit. On the Home Depot Big Ten on CBS, it's number 7 Indiana at number 3 Oregon with Brad Nessler and Gary Danielson. On Fox, it's TCU at Kansas State with Tim Brando and Devin Gardner. ESPN has number 22 Iowa State at Colorado with Mike Monaco and Louis Riddick. On ESPNU, it's Alabama State at Jackson State, Tiffany Green and Jay Walker. On FS1 is Northwestern at Penn State, Connor Onion and Mark Helfrich. On the CW, it's Wake Forest at Oregon State with Ted Robinson, Ryan Leaf, and Nigel Burton. On BTN, you have Nebraska at Maryland, Guy Haberman and Jake Butt. On the ACC network, it's Virginia Tech at number 13 Georgia Tech with Wes Durham and Steve Addazio. On CBS Sports Network, it's Air Force at UNLV with Rich Waltz and Robert Turbin. Streaming on Peacock at 3:30 p.m. Eastern, 12:30 p.m. Pacific is NC State at number 16 Notre Dame with Dan Hicks and Jason Garrett. The remaining 3 games at 3:30 p.m. Eastern, 12:30 p.m. Pacific are all streaming on ESPN+. Appalachian State at Georgia State and Old Dominion at Marshall have no broadcast teams announced for those 2 games. Meanwhile, Ball State at Western Michigan has Sean Kenny and Marcus Ray. Then at 4 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Pacific on ESPN2, Navy at Temple, Roy Philpott and Sam Acho. 15 minutes after that at 4:15 p.m. Eastern, 1:15 p.m. Pacific on the SEC network is Arkansas at number 12 Tennessee with Dave Neal and Fozzie Whitaker. And then at 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific, streaming exclusively on ESPN+, is UAB at Florida Atlantic with James Westling and Liger Duzable. Almost screwed up his name again. Alright, now we're on to the evening and late night portion of the schedule on Saturday. You'll have 4 games at 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific. You have another 6 at 7:30, 1 at 7:45. You have a couple at 8, and then 1 at 9:45, another at 10:15, another at 10:30, and you have 1 game getting underway at midnight, pretty much. All right, on to the evening portion. ESPN has Florida at number 5 Texas A&M with Mark Jones and Roddy Jones. FS1 has Iowa at Wisconsin, Eric Collins and Spencer Tillman. CBS Sports Network has San Jose State at Wyoming with Jordan Kent and Logan Ryan. Streaming on ESPN Plus at 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific is Louisiana Monroe at Coastal Carolina, and there is no broadcast team announced for that game. Then at 7:30 p.m. Eastern, 4:30 p.m. Pacific on ABC's Saturday Night Football is number 10 Georgia at Auburn with Sean McDonough and Greg McElroy. On Fox, it's Kansas at number 9 Texas Tech, Jason Benetti and Robert Griffin III. On Big Ten Saturday night on NBC, it's number 15 Michigan at USC with Noah Eagle and Todd Blackledge. On ESPNU, Rice at UTSA, Courtney Lyle and Renee Ingogila. On BTN, it's Purdue at Minnesota with Chris Volsters and Anthony Herron. On the ACC network, it's Clemson at Boston College, Chris Cotter and Forrest Connolly. 15 minutes later at 7:45 p.m. Eastern, 4:45 p.m. Pacific on the SEC network is South Carolina at number 11 LSU with Tom Hart, Jordan Rogers, and Cole Kubelic. 15 minutes after that at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific on ESPN2. Number 18 BYU at Arizona, Mike Cousins and Kirk Morrison. Also at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific, and streaming exclusively on ESPN Plus is Troy at Texas State. There is no broadcast team announced for that game. Then at 9:45 p.m. Eastern, 6:45 p.m. Pacific on FS1 is New Mexico at Boise State with Noah Reed and Robert Smith. Sorry. At 10:15 p.m. Eastern, 7:15 p.m. Pacific on ESPN, number 21 Arizona State at Utah, Dave Fleming and Brock Osweiler. At 10:30 p.m. Eastern, 7:30 p.m. Pacific on CBS Sports Network is San Diego State at Nevada with John Sadak and Taylor Mahargway. The final game of the night is at 11:59 p.m. Eastern, 8:59 p.m. Pacific on Spectrum Hawaii and Mountain West Conference Digital. And that's Utah State at Hawaii. And there is no broadcast team announced for that game. And that is a look at your Week 7 college football television schedule and the announcers for every game coming up this weekend, which begins tonight, by the way, with a couple games. Alright, my next video will be tomorrow, as we will jump into my Week 6 NFL picks, both straight up and against the spread. And we'll also have the injury report heading into tomorrow night's Eagles-Giants matchup, so join me for that. Like, comment, and subscribe to my channel, ring the bell, and get notified every time I go live. Big Al signing off. Thanks for watching, and enjoy the picks game. Peace out.